This is your Eternal MMA 85 recap, breakdown, wrap, whatever you want to call it. Look, today's show we're going to cover where does Anthony Drilich go to from here, what's next for Jack Becker, and of course, where's Kappa, where to from here, and what does Rod Costa do? It was a weird night for Scrappy MMA, split down the middle, if you will. It was my first time being back at Eternal MMA in nearly 2 years. So let's break it down. Look, normally I like to do these day of, night of the show, but Eternal MMA 85 HBF Stadium June 8th. I want to take a little bit of extra time because I was there at the event. You become like a real like victim of the moment, you know, like it's the best show you've ever been to or whatever it is because you're there and live. And in that moment. And I just wanted to kind of sit, and there's some thoughts that I had that have remained, and there's some that have like changed a little bit as well. Of course, I get an influx of messages, and you guys can hit me up to Australian MMA _ on Instagram. It's probably the best one. That's where everyone likes to message and just give me your thoughts on all the fights, the scenes, the news, doesn't matter what it is. I always find it quite interesting as well because it can often like influence sometimes what you think. You know, if you turn to the person next to you and you thought it was a banger fight and they turn around and they go, well, I don't know about that. All of a sudden it starts to like sort of creep in. So when I like to do these, I like to, you know, I normally jump off straight away and it's just my thoughts immediately. But I thought I'd give this one a little bit of extra time. Now, I'll give you my overall thoughts on the show. Of course, the brainchild of Cam O'Neill and Ben Vickers, the co-owners, directors, CEOs, matchmakers, whatever you want to call them. Of course, you can check out the long-awaited chat of myself and Ben Vickers on YouTube and Spotify. That's going very well. He's head coach of Scrap MMA and one half of Eternal MMA. We'll get Cam O'Neill, trust me. It's only a matter of time. We're coming. Yeah, look, it was a great show. I thoroughly enjoyed being there. Eternal MMA it was where I started my entire MMA career and whatnot, in the sense of being a media, quote unquote, personality, if you will. And I've always thought I've called it straight down the line with them, regardless of how I have felt. But seeing as Ben made it public in our chat, there has been at times like issues, and hopefully you guys don't see it as much. Just a whole bunch of passionate people trying to do their best for the sport, and sometimes the wires get crossed. But either way, it is electric. So yeah, just I'm glad the bridge is more than mended. They had amazing hospitality. While I was there, created an own little media sort of corner, gave me a space to do interviews, which of course you can see Eternal MMA. I mean, if you want to go there. No, if you hit up Australian MMA _ on Instagram or hit up YouTube or Spotify, all the post-fight interviews are there with the fighters that were on the main card, which is on UFC Fight Pass, and you can still check it out if you want to head there now. So I do implore before we get into it, any media members out there that want to get involved in the sport, hit up Eternal MMA if they can see you genuine. And any promotion ever around Australia, just email them, message them. If you're genuine, you care about the sport, they will bend over backwards to get you a spot and get you everything you need, which is good. And a shout out to Cam O'Neill. Like we've said in the past, we've had our differences, but we've never stopped caring about each other's careers. And he even provided and made sure the translator was there for me to do my interview, which is of no connection to Eternal MMA whatsoever. But he made sure that Kuya Ito's translator, who eventually went on to beat Rod Costa, we'll talk about that soon, for the bantamweight title, he made sure that the translator was there as well. So, I mean, big shout out to them. All right, enough fiddling with their bits. My thoughts on the show. Broadcast, I mean, Love Eternal MMA. I really do. It's one of the best shows, broadcast-wise. Being there is amazing. It really does make you feel you're like that. It's got that UFC feel. If you've ever go to a live UFC event, you go to a live Eternal event, it's got that similar feel. Like nice wait times between each fights. Nice sort of entertainment and vibe around the food. The crowd as well. If you don't know much about the crowd, they're not intimidating. Like I saw kids running around, families, like mums and dads. Like it was cool. It's good to see where the sport has gone in that sense of the crowd at Eternal. It's quite nice and sort of there's still some crazy fans and whatnot, but it's nice and like safe. Now onto the actual product. I liked the card. We'll get into the main event. At the end of this, there's time codes below. Do skip through if you get bored at any point. But I want to kind of give it justice, so I'm probably not going to zip through this as quick as you might be used to. But my one critique aesthetically is I know they've got a new sponsor with I think it's Fight HQ. I really like their stuff. I bought heaps of their stuff before. And I know they're probably like really good gloves. I just don't like the brown. I don't know why. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm an idiot. Let me know. But I just don't like the brown. I don't know why. It just doesn't. I don't know. Aesthetically, it just doesn't do it for me. But let me know. And that's, I guess, good to be the one critique is that I just didn't like the brown gloves. But moving on to the actual fight. Look. The main thing is that another thing that Ben Vickers messaged me and he said that he didn't get to say in our interview, but he wants to sort of get out to everyone. It's something to do with the amateurs. And he just wanted to get through to everyone that if you're an amateur, and I think you can see the prelims are probably on YouTube or hit up eternalmma.com, you can check it out. But the amateurs really wear their hearts on their sleeves. And some fighters, end up 2-6, 2-7, whatever it is. And Ben Vickers just kind of wanted to pass the message on that, like, you get a reset. So, like, don't stress. Like, in the amateurs, take all the hard fights, take all the risks, because it's the only sport really in the world that you get a reset. You can be 1-7 as an amateur and then come out and start your career 3-0 and all of a sudden you look amazing. One of the ones that points out to me the most, and I don't know where he's off to now, but I think it was Jack Hayes from M16, Miles Simpson's gym. I think he was like 0-5 as an amateur. And then he took nothing but tough fights. This was flyweight. And then when he turned pro, he might have gone 1-0. It could have been 2-0, but even if it was just 1-0, like you would give up 5 amateur losses for a 1-0 start at pro. So kind of take your apprenticeship, sort of do all the hard things. And if it doesn't work out, but you're ready to go pro, boom, go pro. And hit the ground running. But use amateur for what it is. An apprenticeship, and there's many different ways to go about it, but that's kind of what Benny wanted me to pass through, and I hope it did it justice because I do agree with him as well. Like there's guys like Kai Bicknell who stood out as well on the night, and he's like, I think he's like 2-6. He might even be like 2-7. But he's so exciting, so flashy, and he could have been like a pro like 5 years ago where he's at now. But like he just has to wait, get all the rust out, and when he's ready to go pro, he can go pro, and he gets to start at 0-0. So I don't know if anyone agrees with me on that, but and Ben, sorry, on that. Then I'd like to hear your thoughts, but I do like what the amateurs are doing these days. There's a lot of them are taking very, very tough fights, and I think that's what you need to do in the sport before you go pro and get ruthlessly just sifted through and critiqued. Because when you go pro, you can't take anything back, where no one really cares about your amateur record looking back. Another quick little highlight of the amateurs, some guys that stood out for me before I get into the pros. Like I said, if you guys do get bored, you can skip through to the time code. But standouts for me, Kai Bicknell did well. Just mentioned him again. He kept his unofficial dick kick streak alive. We actually talked at the weigh-ins, and he said if I was more hydrated, he said I'd fight you. But it's like his style. I think he's a southpaw. It's like this inadvertent, like the way he throws kicks. I think he's even lost a fight by unintentional low blows. So therefore he got disqualified. It was like too many in a row. I think he's like landed like 6 or 7, possibly even 8 unintentional low blows in a row. And like I cannot sort of hammer home how much I mean like he does not mean it. There is not like a dirty bone in his body type thing. But the way it just works out, it's like weirdly poetic that he lands one each time. But look, he stood out to me. He's always a very entertaining fighter. Shannon Staples as well from Wilkes Gym, training partner of Steve Ursig. All his coaches, Shannon Staples, I think they fought each other. They say that Shannon just doesn't like the training of being a pro, but he 100% could go pro. And he's done a lot of work with Steve Ursig, who in the UFC now just recently fought for the UFC title. So Shannon Staples definitely could go pro. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with him. The two people I want to highlight as well, Alex Torres, who ended up getting the victory. I don't know if I agreed with that decision or not, but I really like his style. The Iron Octopus, I think it is. He's like strength and conditioning. He's the strength and conditioning coach of Quillan Southfield, who recently just called up to Dana White Contender Series. Alex Torres is a great fighter. I think he's a great grappler. I don't know if he won, but once again, it doesn't really matter. It's in the amateurs. But him and Jasmine Nakora, who unfortunately lost to Ren Hanley, I think there's a lot of me thinking, I probably should know. Ren Hanley, I think, is on the Wolves Den Academy scholarship. So she won that a while back. Might still be on it, not too sure. And Jasmine Nakora and Alex Torres stepped up. I think they took their fights on like Tuesday and they fought on the Saturday. It was something like ridiculous like that. So big props to them because without them, those 2 fights wouldn't have happened and wouldn't have been able to go ahead. And that's what it's all about, getting up, taking fights. So, yeah, big shout out to those guys. So go back, watch the amateurs if you like, or if you don't, I guess you won't listen to this bit and you would have skipped anyway. Moving on to the UFC Fight Pass bit of the card. Now, Ben Vickers in our interview said this as well. Deatta versus Hoshi Friedrich. He said, basically, Deatta on UFC Fight Pass will either start a card or one day eventually end a card. Like you do not put him in the middle of a fight card. He is like the Cowboy Cerrone in a weird way of like the world tour. Like you always know you're going to get a hell of a fight with Deatta. He's had some middleweight fights previously, but that was kind of all just short notice stuff. But he's an interesting position at 170. He knocked out Hoshi Friedrich. They were feeling each other out a little bit. Khan kind of found his spot. Hoshi looked like he lunged in a little bit. Khan hooked him. Finished him off on the ground. He now moves to, I think, 3-3. Khan has had an interesting start in the sense of he was basically just one of those like Muay Thai guys that came on over. And then it looked like he just kind of like couldn't really figure out the grappling and he couldn't get it going. And now, we still don't really know if that's the case. But when you start your career at 1-3 and you keep going, it means it's definitely something you want to do. So Deatta getting the stop over Hoshi Friedrich, who has fought some guys, at least been scheduled to fight some guys, and he's a really, really tough dude in the sense of taking matchups. So big props to him for taking it. Deatta is now in a weird position, and we talked post-fight. Like I said, you can see it on the Australian MMA YouTube channel. Deatta is so exciting. He could knock out anyone on the planet. But where does he kind of go now? Does he want to be taken a bit more serious as a fighter in the sense of title shots and being up there as a contender and whatnot? It'll be interesting to see. Because if you look at the welterweight title picture in the next 2 weeks, Lachlan Stitt and John Varkey are taking on each other. Now, Lachlan Stitt is only 3-1. It's similar sort of Muay Thai style. So, I mean, in the future, I wouldn't... Like, if Lockie Stitt loses, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Lockie Stitt versus Deatta down the road. That would be very, very nice. I do think Deatta is still, although, you look at Lockie Stitt getting the shot, I still think at 3-3, Deatta probably still has a little bit more work to do. I'd like him against a grappler. Word is the likes of Joey Luciano is potentially looking internationally and probably won't fight regionally. But I'd kind of want Deatta to take one more fight before that sort of upper echelon type of guy. It depends how much you want to elevate him. If you want to elevate him quickly, and this is the whole thing, I'm not sure. So you give Khan Deatta this fight and kind of he tells you if he's ready or not. I reckon if you want to move him quickly, Khan Deatta, and then you want to get him like a title fight after that, which I would not be surprised if they did that. I would like to see him against like a Caleb Rideout, like just throw him right in the deep end. Let's see how you go. Because Rideout can definitely grapple as well. He's a hell of a striker. Like that would be very, very interesting. If you want to take a little bit more of a slowed approach, I've got down here like a Victor Lyle, who you would have seen him from that viral head kick, I think on the Sunshine Coast or the Gold Coast, wherever it was, or the dude that was starting on him. And then if you check out some of his Eternal fights, he's just ready to scrap out of Ignite, I believe. So, yeah, look, it'd be interesting to see what Khan Deatta does next. Any of these names, guys, make sure you're just Googling along if you're listening. Just Google their names, man. Look at their records, look at their fights. It'll keep you up to date as easy as possible. I've got Jono Mikulev written down here, but I don't know. I'd much rather see Jono Mikulev just sort of skip straight to a title shot. I think he's earned it, even though he's coming off a loss against Alden Bates. And who knows what he wants to do on other promotions and whatnot. Speaking of Alden Bates, he was there. He was in the crowd. And actually, in one interview, he's yelling at me from the crowd, which was quite funny. I'd love to see him back next. That would be very interesting to see what Alden Bates can do. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird time at welterweight. It really, really is. You got your Matt Vales running around, your Kit Campbells. Khan Deatta, who knows, mate? Who knows? Now, next fight. Kevin Hophamel versus Joe Davis. Now, Kevin Hophamel eventually ended up winning in the first round via it's like a ninja choke. It's like a no-arm guillotine. It's like a standing modified guillotine, whatever you want to call it. He is coming off a 2-year layoff against a very tough El Toro. Joe Davis out of Lion's Den. Start of a fighter. I think he's now 1-2, Joe Davis, but like understand he is very good. His only losses come against Seb Saleh, who is a favourite to win the Eternal MMA Grand Prix for the featherweight belt and $5,000 cash. And yeah, Joe Davis, like he put it on Hophamel. Like I've always been a big fan of him. I've watched Kevin since he started his career at Eternal MMA. And he had 2 years of rust to knock off as well. Some pretty serious injuries. He goes over it in our post-fight interview. This is called horizontal. It's called horizontal selling, guys, where you send someone off to go check out another one of your products. The Kevin Hophamel interview, he goes into a little bit more sort of his injuries and kind of what he had to go through and everything. So, look, do check it out. But yeah, like Joe Davis put it on him at the start. He just did. He was on his back. He was looking very, very, very dominant. And I was like, oh no, sort of almost like the game's moved past him a little bit after his little stint in boxing. And yeah, Kevin Hophamel got him eventually. Twice unintentional dick shots. So I do feel sorry for him there. Lost a point. And sort of immediately after the second one, Kevin sprawled. And then as they got to their feet, that's where we found ourselves into the modified guillotine. So I don't know if it had anything to do with it, but either way, Kevin Hophamel was a stud of a fighter. And I think now it's, in featherweight it's opening up a little bit. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an injury, if we don't see sort of Kevin slide in there. So I think that's very, very, very possible. I think he's at that level, even at just 2-0. But I've got written down Kevin Hophamel, maybe like a Val Sharapov out of Adrenal MMA. He's looked really good recently on Demolition Fight Series and as a pro, or Alistair Valdez out of Absolute MMA, who I love Ali Valdez. He's super exciting and talks loads of shit. So Kevin Hophamel versus either Val Sharapov and Ali Valdez. So I don't know, let me know your thoughts. Australian MMA _. 4 fights to go. Thanks for sticking with me. If you are Eternal MMA 85 HBF Stadium, June 8. Now, Jack Becker defeated Koshi Matsumoto via decision. I think it was 30-27 and 2 30-26s, which means he put a whooping on near the ends. Interested to see your thoughts and everyone's thoughts on the fight. I'm always a bit... Jack always looks a little stiff sometimes with his striking. Like, not stiff. Like, if you've ever watched, like, Clay Guida fight, like, he's got that, like, where there's just sometimes he looks almost, like, hesitant and a bit too, like, I don't know, stiff in the guard. This sounds ridiculous coming from me. But when he got looser and he was, like, flowier and landing that jab and he got length on all the punches, like, he was touching Koshi like nothing else. Koshi Matsumoto, I did a little bit of research on him as well, plus talking to many people, former Shudo lightweight champ. He's 40. That's obviously going to go against him when you're talking about how good the victory was for Jack. And he's had over 40 fights. So he's been around, man. I think Jack looked really good. And look, the international fights, they're probably here to stay for all promotions. So I'm going to do my due diligence. And I'm going to kind of find out more about these guys, because promotions are becoming a little bit more, like, unfortunately, segregated to a degree. So it's kind of my job to find out a little bit more about these guys, and I will do that because I am ever evolving as well. Jack Becker's in a very weird spot. Well, he went for the finish. He was very excited, very exciting. But, I mean, who's he fight next? Josh Togo's moved on to the PFL. Quillan Southfield is off with Dana White Contender Series. That opens up the title bout, which is the number 1 contender fight, which we will talk about next. But David Martinez, he moves on to take on Harry Webb for that belt. Wes Kappa, who lost to Martinez, is Becker's teammate. They will never fight. And then you've got, no, this makes sense. This is why I did this. Because I remember writing it just like that. I was like, what does he do next? There's one fight, and it makes a hell of a lot of sense. Jack Becker, Aiden Aguilera, the trilogy in Perth, August 17th, where it all went down. Now, Jack has beaten Aiden Aguilera. He was on Coastal Combat, maybe like 2021 or early 2022, something like that. Maybe even before that. And he won by decision. Then they fought for the Eternal lightweight title in Perth 2 years ago. That is the infamous fight where Jack Becker snapped his leg in half. So, I mean, is there a fight that is better? That the man that, in a way, took his UFC dreams, because Jack Becker wins that fight. It was well known. There was a lot of UFC brass watching that fight. It was almost like that was the fight to get him in. And Aiden Aguilera's knee took it all. Of course, there's no malice between those boys, but, I mean, I find that quite poetic in a weird way, to almost avenge all of that right back in the same stadium it happened, HBF Stadium in Perth, back in the same promotion, the same type of weekend, UFC weekend. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. I like stories. The script writers be working overtime. And Aiden Aguilera, who's taken some time off, has not looked better. What he did to Lucas Katabik, the Demolition Fight series, was slick. So that's the fight to make. Moving on. Look, I reckon when we move on to the number one contender fight that we were just talking about, Harry Webb is waiting for the winner of this fight. David Martinez taking on Wes Kappa for the number one contender fight. August 17th, the fight will go down against Harry Webb for the lightweight belt. Now, both men have struggled to make weight at times. Both men have missed weight at times. David Martinez even weighing in at the hospital, getting sick fight week, not being able to make weight. Absolute professionals, both of them, but just struggled at times. Same Wes Kappa, he's had 85,000 combat sports fights between boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, Kung Fu, Aikido, badminton. It doesn't matter what it is. Wes Kappa's done it all. And so good to see him back in MMA as well. He's kind of really sort of cemented himself as a contender. And I feel this fight, both boys made weight, super professional, super disciplined. They got in there, and that fight was exactly what we thought. Wes Kappa trying to pick him apart on the feet. David Martinez trying to take him down. And early on in the fight, Martinez got him down. Wes Kappa got back up. And I think it solidified Wes Kappa. And he really belongs. Like he's older now. He might be 34, 35. Maybe he's older. I don't know. But he definitely belongs, man. I think he's got a few more fights left in him. He was trying to find a home against Martinez. He had some good moments, but Martinez just showed why he's a two-time Eternal lightweight champion and looking to possibly be a three-time Eternal champion, which I think is a very strong possibility. We have not seen Harry Webb's grappling necessarily tested to the level of Martinez. So come August 17th, that is going to be a very intriguing fight. Shout out to Mr. Martinez as well, who donated 10% of his fight purse to Infinite MMA, who went through an arson attack earlier. So that was really nice of him. They're going to use that $22. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I actually don't know how much. But look, any money is great. That's actually incredible for David Martinez, who came over without his coach and his wife. We were normally in his corner because they were busy doing the MMA juniors, and his wife just didn't end up making the trip. But for Martinez to sort of do a little bit of post-fight speech after that and then to donate a bit of his purse, I think is pretty incredible. But make no mistake about it, it is going to be an amazing striker versus grappler matchup, UFC weekend. Harry Webb taking on David Martinez. Yeah, it's good. As for Wes Kappa, I hope he continues to fight. I don't know what I'm chatted to him. He's always up spirit, but, he can feel it a little bit. I would say that I would like to see Martinez take on like a Kieran Joblin. This is me just randomly thinking. Maybe like some older guys that have great records and great resumes and just sort of, I don't know, I think that would just be a nice fight. I have no qualms anymore against grapplers. Wes Kappa against any grappler. Martinez is just like top of the food chain. But I think Wes has shown now that he's not just a striker type thing. He can sprawl and brawl. He can sort of get up. He got out of multiple submissions from Martinez, who's a black belt and would have put many people away. So Wes Kappa's definitely hanging around, man. Yeah, I'd like to see him against Kieran Joblin. That's just my sort of fan pick, and I think that would do wonders for him. And he's got to kind of dance around. He's not going to get matched up with Becker. But I think, one or two more fights, you give him a shot at the title. I wouldn't be surprised if you can see one more fight. It's definitely possible. So yeah, we'll see how it pans out. Martinez, could very well become a three-time Eternal MMA champion, and we'll get to find out August 17th if Harry Webb is in fact the real deal. Moving on to the Eternal MMA flyweight title, Anthony Drilich taking on Max Leali. Max training out of Bangtao, I think he's American via Thailand, had the great Frank Hickman in his corner. Shout out to Frank. Just nice dude, great dude. Hell of one of the better wrestlers we've ever had from Australia, especially in MMA. Max Leali, not a whole lot known about him, just in the sense of not ranked sort of incredibly up there type thing. I think if you look at Tapology, it was 150th or something like that in the world or what. So it's hard to put sort of a number on it. But he's definitely a good fighter. But Anthony Joyce is just fucking for real, isn't he? He's got granite in his hands. He needs a new nickname. He needs to be Anthony Power Drill Itch. There you go. You're welcome. He just puts people to fucking sleep. Anthony Drill is he used to be the size of a welterweight. He was massive. But you look at him now, I think his first pro fight, he put a featherweight to sleep at featherweight. The fact that he's got that power at flyweight should be illegal. In the sense of, I know he stood in the ring and called for the UFC. Look, I'm all for it. I truly do believe that the three-man weave that I've got going on, the Stewie Nickel, Sean Gauci, and Anthony Drilich, I do think all three of them can make it. I think they can just keep sparking anyone that's not from here. And they will eventually all get signed. Do I want them to see each other? Yes. I know that Drill allegedly, Nickel has been offered both these fights and has turned them down for reasons, he's got something else planned type thing. So I don't know what's happening with him. But in terms of Gauci, Sean Gauci, and Anthony Drilich, how about this? Because the boys don't seem to fight each other regionally for many reasons, which I can talk about, both in and outside of their control, and management and coaches and promotions and blah, 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 blah. What about this? I had the great Sammy Haywood give me a message, shout out, head coach of Jono Mikalev, the former Hex champion and future UFC fighter, Jono Mikalev. Sammy Haywood goes, what about Sean Gauci, Anthony Drilich in the UFC? And it made me think, that's a pretty cool idea. Because it was back in the day, I can't remember exactly who would fight. This is an example. It'd be there we go. Steve Kennedy versus Richie Walsh. UFC 193. I think it was both their UFC debuts in Melbourne. And the one where Ronda Rousey got her head kicked off? That one. They fought each other. So the UFC... And you don't have to do it with the Dana White Contender Series. Why not just do it UFC Perth, 305, Drilich is from Perth, Sean Gauci is from Melbourne. Sign them both, one-fight deals, winner stays, loser rebuilds. And of the couple of hundred people that are listening, I can only imagine that Dana White and Sean Shelby and Hunter Campbell are three of them. So... what do you guys think? If you just someone that's not them, Australian MMA_, let me know what you think. But either way, I would like to see Drilich and Gauci fight each other at some point. Let me make you both happy and do it in the UFC. But I will always be intrigued to see what is next with Gauci, Nickel, and Drilich. Finally, the Eternal MMA main event, HBF Stadium, June 8th. The bantamweight title. Rod Costa, the man that's never lost at bantamweight, taking on Kuya Ito from Japan. Now, people that saw the weighing results were like, oi, he weighed a little bit over. No, Eternal MMA has, I believe, a 500-gram weight allowance for all fights. That includes title fights. Hex has it as well. Beatdown doesn't have titles. But they're their own promotions. They can do what they want, all right? Just because the UFC says, oh, you got to be bang on for championship, that's their rules, just so you know, and you stop getting mad and saying, oh, Rod Costa's never made bantamweight. He has. Like, if he had to make it bang on, I'm sure he'd make it bang on. Like, don't bang on about it. Anyway, talk about the fight. Kuya Ito eventually took out Rod Costa by split decision and walks away the belt, walks away the winner. Well, I think it's very good for Eternal MMA because you're booking these international fights. You need one of them to win so we can believe that they can. And it's going to mean the Eternal title means more in the sense of because someone can come to our shores and take it. Do I think that was the right result? No, I do not. Now, there's sort of new judging and stuff at times. And I guess if you look at Rod Costa's nose, it was busted up. But I still don't think there was no times he was rocked. There was no times like, because in that sense, right, hear me out. If we're just going damage, are we talking external damage? Are we talking internal damage? What if I hit you with like a sick liver shot? What if I rock your brain on the inside and you don't show it? Your brain doesn't leak out. So if you can't see, like just because there's blood, I don't think that counts as damage to such an extent. Now, Rod Costa, I think, controlled the fight for, 15 minutes or something. There's something wild, like as in like holding him down for 15 minutes. Now, probably even longer. Was it the most exciting fight? No. If you're a regular casual fan, you were probably batshit bored. I liked it just because I know how like suffocating Rod Costa can be, and I like seeing guys trying to figure that out. But I'm also a nerd talking about a niche sport in a niche region in the world to a niche audience. So I don't know if I speak for everyone. A lot of the crowd were leaving early. But the educated ones that were sticking, I wouldn't even say educated. Look, it just wasn't it wasn't an entertaining fight. And you can defend it all you want, but it just kind of wasn't. That's sometimes Rod Costa's style. He's like the Australian Damien Meyer. I'm a massive fan of Rod's. Like off air, watching him fight in interviews, doesn't matter what it is. I'm a massive fan of Rod Costa. I do think if he landed a few more punches or threw a few more punches on the ground or some elbows, I think you get those rounds easily. But I think just because he was just shooting and holding him down, the judges are going, well, you're not doing much with that position type thing. That's where I think the scoring went Ito's way. And that's why I think Ito won the bout. Now, if I'm at the pub and I watch that fight, well, I'm probably going inside and having a drink. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but like in terms of like straight up entertainment value from like a casual fan, they wouldn't have been stoked with that. But Rod Costa is so good that he can do that to people. And I think that's important. And like, I like seeing that because I like people trying to solve the puzzle. Do I think Ito solved the puzzle? I don't. And I've watched it 3 times now, and maybe I'm just not educated enough to see that. I know that Damien Brown messaged me, who runs Beatdown Promotions, and he was happy that Ito won, and he thought it was good that the damage was rewarded more than just holding the position. But I still think Rod did enough to win. Let me know your thoughts, Australian MMA _. I would say this, though. They're in a very tricky position because I do believe Rod Costa is going to just fight forever, especially when he's not taking like massive damage like that. I wouldn't mind seeing Rod Costa get a rematch, to be honest, but I understand that if you give him a rematch, maybe it looks like you're desperately trying to get the belt back off Ito and kind of back to Rod. I don't think that's the case. I think it's warranted a rematch. Will it main event? Absolutely not. But yeah, I think Rod won that fight. You can disagree with me. I don't care. I think Rod won that fight. Was an entertaining fight. I don't think it was. I think there were moments and there was passages for me that I enjoyed it, but ultimately I can see why people didn't. But that is the game. Rod is much better than that. Well, if they don't give him a rematch, I have no idea who you give a title shot to. Maybe fly Colby Thickness over from freestyle. He's undefeated. I think he's 4-0. Maybe give Colby a shot at Ito for the belt. And then maybe you can do like a Michael Manu versus Rod Costa again. I mean, they're both coming off losses. That a nice fight. See how they go there. I don't know. What do you guys think? Oh, no, another thought. Depending on what Rod wants to do. Maybe we can see Rod Costa back up to featherweight and he can fight Dan Jones, which if you have a look at his record, 10 years ago, it's listed as back-to-back losses to Dan Jones. Dan Jones kind of getting his way back into MMA, so who knows? Rod Costa versus Dan Jones. I think that would be very interesting. So either way, guys, let me know what you think. Whether you agree, disagree. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the sport. Do message me. Happy to have a debate with anyone. If you want to go watch Eternal MMA 85, make sure you hit up UFC Fight Pass and just search Eternal MMA 85. It's a great broadcast. It was a great performance, great highlights. It was awesome. Any other news and whatnot, make sure you hit up Australian MMA _. Other than that, I will be having a chat with the great Cody Haddon, who has been recently signed to Dynamite Contender Series. That will be out very soon. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, that was the Eternal MMA 85 wrap-up, reaction, breakdown. I'll figure out what to call it sometime. But that was also just one man ranting in his garage for an hour. Stay safe. June 22nd, Eternal MMA 86, Lockie Stitt taking on John Varkey. And this week, we've got Hex Fight Series 31, Navajo Sterling, Sam Key looking to become the light heavyweight champion. Some stat cards, we'll be talking more about that this week. Anyway, stay safe, guys. See you next time.